Welcome to the Truly Rotten Potatoes podcast. This is the Filmmaker interview series. I'm your host, Declan, and I'm here with Sebastian Chan. Welcome to the show.
Thanks so much for having me.
You are a producer, you're a writer, you're a director. You have a long list of credits on short films, web series, television series, and now feature films. So you produced SNATCHERS that just premiered at Raindance last year, and you've just completed production of your debut feature film called Endling. So we will get into that, but welcome to the show. And first, let's go through the history of kind of your world of film. What was your journey? Did you study at university? And let's go through some of the highlights of your career. So were you always into film as like a young child?
Yeah, I think I kind of, Dad would take me to the movies a lot. You know, the Disney classics, Lion King, Little Mermaid, Toy Story, Babe, Pig in the City, all those things. And I think, growing up, I always had a very active imagination. I'd go next door and play with the kids my age, and I would always be the one coming up with the crazy storylines and like, all right, you're an owl, you're a goose, you're going to be a pig. This is what you're going to do for the story. And it just kind of developed from there. I got into like drama in high school, and then that developed into media studies in college. So I think I was very big into acting at one stage, and I wanted to be an actor a little bit, and it kind of got to the point where I was doing camera courses, like on-screen acting courses and stuff. And I looked at myself, I was like, no way, hell no. And then I heard myself, I was like, no way. So I'm not watching this back, that's for sure. But and it kind of really developed from there, from a on-screen to a behind the scenes role. And just kind of kept going with it that way, yeah.
So high school, you were doing drama classes, and then did you decide, I want to study this at university?
Yeah, so I think, growing up in Canberra, there's Uni of Canberra where I went to, where, we met, and I think at the time there was very little in terms of film courses. So I did look at, going, to another city and studying, but it is kind of practical to be at home and study. And the course is really great in the sense that I got to meet so many people, and I still collaborate with a lot of those people that I met. So I think that's, definitely a strong point for, staying at home and working with people that So, yeah.
So we did the Bachelor of Media Arts and Production, which was the closest to a film degree you could do at University of Canberra. Mm-hmm. How did you find that experience? Did you had you made short films before you got to uni, or did that spark it really hardcore for you?
Yeah, I made a bunch of really bad films that no one can ever look at. Having that structure of a team, I think, because up until then I'd always kind of been doing it myself. So working with a team, Uni of Canberra really gave me that. And kind of like that, every film that I was making, I was trying to elevate a little bit, whether it was, working with a different genre or, a different, more actors or whatever it was, special effects makeup. So I was always trying to raise the bar a little bit. And then obviously local competitions like Lights, Camera, Action and stuff, they give you a format to kind of work towards. So yeah, I had that mindset of just make as many shorts as I can. It doesn't matter if they're bad at the moment, I'll get better at it. And eventually I got to a point where I was just actually, these are going places. People are seeing them. I should keep going.
Yeah, so, that's great. Yeah. Were you, at that point, I'm not acting anymore? Or was it still in the back of your head, I could jump in? Because I don't remember ever seeing you act in films.
Well, I can send you some films if you like.
You did do other people's or even your own?
Yeah. Oh, totally. Yeah. At one point I was like, okay, I need to make friends with really good actors because I'm sick of seeing myself in my films. And I think, as you probably have this experience as well, making uni films, you just get your peers to be in the films, and the film is so dependent on casting, a short especially in some ways. So I was kind of I was just I'm gonna make friends with actors and they can be in the films from now on. So yeah.
So was the goal to always be a writer, director, or was producer part of it? Because I feel like you fell into producing pretty hard for a while there.
Totally. And I think I kind of always had this thing in my mind of the writing, directing pathway was for me, having that vision, kind of supporting that vision, having stories to tell. But again, I don't want to blame the Canberra community industry, but there was no one that was really supporting me in the producing role. So I was kind of looking at other teams, and they had these amazing filmmakers involved, great teams. I was just kind of by myself. I was like, okay, well, screw it. I'm gonna start producing, and I just started, making my own stuff. And I learned the hard way, like how difficult it is. I still haven't learned because I'm still doing that, but I just kind of fell into it that way because it was kind of out of necessity, and it became one of those things where I realized, I'm not too bad at this, and I should keep going with it. And then people started coming to me with their projects, and they were like, can you help me? I'm like, I need a producer. Okay, so like, sure, I'll do yours, you do mine, whatever. And it kind of just grew out of that, basically. So
that's amazing. So I remember when you were in uni, you made a film where you went to like the snow and like the character's finger got cut off in the snow or something. What was that one? Remind me.
It's a great memory. Yeah. Bernie, that was like my final project. I was talking about that the other day to someone, and I think, as we'll get into it, but like I'm very much a locations guy. So like again, like the writer director in me was like, oh, wouldn't it be cool if like we had this snow scene, like actual snow, right? Like it'd be so epic. It'd be like blow, everyone out of the water. And I was like, yeah, we should do that. And then the realities of going to the snow for a day, getting casting crew up there, all that thing, that the producer in me was like, screw that writer director guy. We're never doing that again. It was a great experience. Like I think that kind of really instilled in me the idea that, things take hard work to make happen, right? And whether it's a financial or otherwise, it's gonna, it's an effort. It's gonna cost you. So now when I'm writing, I try and keep that in mind as much as possible.
I think when you have an idea like that, there's a part where it sounds awesome. You're like, we're doing a day trip to the snow, and no one else is going to do this for their film. We're going to get like authentic snow mountains.
Yeah.
And then people get there and they're like, this is awful. Like, it's cold and wet. And and then I remember the reason I remember is because in the film, I'm sure you cut a lot of that section out of it because it was like just a very small amount that was in the snow. So I was like, man, he got them all to go to the snow for like 10 seconds on screen. In my head is how I remember it.
Well, yeah. Like I said, I was watching it the other day for whatever reason, and it was literally like 20 seconds in the film, in the 7-minute film. So it was like, I guess, the cost effectiveness of it was like, was it really worth it? But then it was like, we went to the snow, we had a great time. And everyone, no one was complaining. I mean, at the time, everyone was like, what are we doing here? But looking back at it, everyone was like, we went to the snow, the scene looks great. The film doesn't make sense. It's like, why is there a snow scene? But it's cool. It was fun. So, yeah.
When you were at uni, did you find the course valuable? I remember you and I had like a marketing class like right at the end of the degree. And it was like, I remember we had to learn how to calculate percentages because it was all about cost per click and all this stuff. It was just one of those last classes we had to do to graduate. Yeah.
It was brutal. So many of those units, like globalization and stuff like that, I'd never thought I'd be learning about. I was like, what has this got to do with like trying to write a script or whatever?
Because that's the way the Uni of Canberra degree was maybe 2 of every 4 classes was film related, cinematography, editing. Yeah. And then there'd be like 2 random ones. One of them was like half related to the media in general or communications, and then there was always one elective that could be completely out of, like some people were just doing Spanish class and stuff.
Exactly. It's like the most random thing that you can include in the unit points, I suppose. But I kind of didn't mind that in hindsight because it was like I was learning so much about things that I didn't think I'd really needed or wanted at the time. But it was like, the knowledge base informs everything. I think if I was to do it all again, I would probably just be like, maybe just travel for 3 years, go make a documentary in South America. World experience. Meet people, get some stories because like, I think, like so much of my life is informed, my work is informed by the stories, the crazy stories, adventures, wherever they may be, whether it's traveling or meeting new people. Not to say that uni wasn't that, but it definitely was a hard slog for me at least, because I think being such a creative person in a lot of ways was like having that mentality of like, you've got to have this in by this time. In a sense, it gave me a structure, which is good, but at the same time, it was like, could I be anywhere else? Where else would I be in the world right now if I could be anywhere?
Yeah. And to write films, they're all about conflict. You need to have had struggles. You need to have felt scared or
totally
uneasy or uncomfortable. And just going to uni, especially if you're like us and you're from Canberra, so you're just driving into it and then going home afterwards.
Yeah.
It's not the same as like moving somewhere else and like being completely fish out of water.
For sure. Yeah.
So I totally see that as well. I think you've done a lot more traveling than I have, but I do think that I've played things really safe in my life. And I'm like, I could have got out there and made myself more uncomfortable because it would inform storytelling.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think that's that part of the alchemy, isn't it, of being a storyteller, is you take your life experiences, whatever it is, you know, traumas, you know, pain, you know, funny stories, things that happen to a friend of a friend, and you find a way to, transmute that into something larger than yourself. And I think it's really interesting. So if you've got, I mean, you know, do some trauma mining, you know, get to those stories.
What do you think the kind of stories that appeal to you? Like if you're like, this is the voice of Seb Chan as the filmmaker, what tones and styles suit you?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think like tone is so tricky to nail. Even on the last film that I did, it's like, what is this exactly, you know? And usually it's this meets this. But for me, generally speaking, like I love films that kind of make the audience question, whether that's question themselves, society, the larger, you know, place in the universe. A good friend described my work back to me in a way that was like, you know, you love taking your audience to the edge and then you push them over the edge. And sometimes you carry them, like you catch them at the bottom, and sometimes you let them go. And I think it kind of really sums up well kind of my approach really, like is, you know, whether that's a genre of sci-fi, horror, comedy, I think it's like, you know, push the boundaries in terms of what, you know, the audience is capable of or happy to kind of, where they're happy to go. Yeah.
So before we get to the new feature film, let's talk kind of through some of your milestones as a career, or maybe what happened right after uni. Like what was your next step after you graduated and you made a few films, you made some connections, but then you get the diploma and you're like, what am I doing? What was your next step?
Yeah. So it was a bachelor, and I think at the time I was like, I'm never studying again.
I had that as well. I'm like, I'm never going back to school.
Yeah.
I had a rule for myself in uni that was don't buy any textbooks and don't take any exams. And I had to take an exam in the very last semester for that marketing class.
Oh, no. Yeah.
And I had to buy one textbook that was just like a dictionary of communications terms.
Right.
But all the others I either found elsewhere or got like an ebook or a PDF or even an audiobook, anything I could do to get around having to buy them.
Yeah.
So I did pretty well.
That's amazing. You did very well. I think I bought like 3 or 4 books in the end, which I was still trying to be like, don't buy anything, don't do anything. But it was hard to get away from that. But yeah, so I was like, never again, no more education. And then I enrolled in an afters course.
Yeah.
Like the year, like pretty much the year I graduated.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that.
Which is an advanced diploma in producing. And that was pretty much online, actually. And that was the first time they ran that version of the course. So we were kind of guinea pigs in a way. But for me, like
so did you think at this point, I'm going to be a producer? Or were you like, I just need to get a bit more hands-on teaching for this specific skill, which they definitely don't teach you at uni,
exactly.
How to produce.
Yeah, I think I wanted something more specific that was like more industry-led as well. And, you know, they had great tutors, great lecturers, a great cohort of people that I met, which is a big appeal to like a film school. You know, everyone there is so driven, so passionate, and, you know, everyone's kind of going places in a way, you know, especially at that, you know, that level of diplomas, whatever, like it's very exciting. But
and afters get really good tutors and guest lecturers that are like
definitely.
huge filmmakers.
They're amazing, yeah.
UC got none of that.
Well, we had a few good people, but yeah, they were like, you know, for Canberra, right?
Yeah.
So it was good to have a larger scope. So,
and you get the sense that you're like, a lot of the people teaching here haven't done the stuff we want to do. They're
at least
like,
not for
I've
a long time.
Tons of films. Yeah,
totally.
they're like 30 years ago I directed some shorts or whatever. Yeah,
totally. So I think, for me, it was kind of working out what producing actually was, because I had in my head what it was, but what is the industry definition of that, or what is the larger definition? And I think that was really good for that. But again, it was very much a theoretical course. It wasn't like we were making films or anything. It was like, this is the producer offset. This is how you apply for it. Important information, good information, but again, they're not showing you how to do it. You've got to kind of guess how to do it. Yeah.
And not that creative, like the actual kind of nuts and bolts admin side of producing.
No. It was very much like, paperwork and spreadsheets, which is fine because that's part of it. But
can you at least say that when you made your new feature that all that stuff was so important that you remembered?
Oh, totally. Yeah. I remember how to like lock panels and Excel spreadsheet and stuff. And no, I think
now ChatGPT can do all that.
Exactly. Yeah. The best assistant ever. But it's all a foundation is the way I look at it. Even Uni of Canberra was a foundation, right? I think for me more of how to collaborate with teams, right? And then the diploma was how to implement the systems, right? Whether it's spreadsheets, schedules, whatever it is. And obviously that's scalable to the level of film that you're making. But yeah, the way I look at it was all a great foundation. And then going into it, like I think you would probably agree, the best way to learn how to make a film is to just make one.
Mm-hmm.
And as many as you can make in short form if you can.
Yeah.
And then, go for a big one if you can.
I think films, there's a lot of lessons you have to learn, and you can ask as many people or listen to as many great Canberra podcasts where filmmakers talk about their experiences. Mm-hmm. But yeah, the problems they've learned to solve won't apply to you, and you can only learn by doing it, or have crew that have gone through it. That's the biggest thing. You work with a cinematographer or a gaffer, and they're like, you're not going to want to do that because I've been on shows that have tried to do that and it 100%. Doesn't work. Yeah.
And the best ones are like, oh, you can do that, but like, I told you so. Like, up to you.
Yeah.
And then you're like, you know what? You were right. Yeah.
yeah. Sorry, I wasted all that time trying to get that shot I wanted. That it's never going to make a film. So after you do the afters course, that's you said it's online, so you're still in Canberra, but everyone's in Sydney, right? Because afters is Sydney based.
Yeah. So I got to go for a few online, like in-person classes, which was great. I got to really like connect with the lecturers and the other students. But essentially, I was in Canberra. I got a job at Parley House, working in the press gallery at Network 10.
Yeah,
which is really cool. It was like freelance. It was kind of, I was mostly needed during sitting weeks. So
camera operator, or
I did a bit of editing, bit of camera operating, but I was mostly what they call news exchange. So recording the video feeds as they come in, splitting them out to other networks and stuff. And I had a great boss who was really supportive of my work as a filmmaker. And, if I needed to like take a day off or whatever, he'd be like, yeah, go for it. Like just, bring me back your Oscar or whatever in the future.
Yeah.
So
this is about 10 years ago.
I'd say so. Yeah. So I was there in 2015 when I graduated for about 5 years. And then,
wow. Okay. Yeah.
So, I mean, like I said, I was on and off. So I got to kind of have the space and time to work on my own shorts. And I think it was that time that I really kind of went like a step ahead in a way. Like I was just like, well, I've just got to try new things, and for me, it was just entering competitions, deadlines. I love deadlines so much, like whatever it was, whether it was Lights, Canberra Action, Canberra Short Film Tropfest, focus on ability, like that. It was that kind of stuff that was like, this is when the film's due. This is the requirements. Go out and make it as much as possible. And
the job you were doing, was it one of those ones where it's adjacent to the industry you want to do? It's some of the skills you've learned you're using, but you're like, I'm not a filmmaker. I'm not a writer, director. I'm not on sets.
Yeah. Totally. Yeah.
And is that pushing you to go, I have to spend my spare time aiming towards the goal?
I think so. I mean, and it's kind of similar at the moment. Like I work a lot in TV at the moment, is like either in the production office or script coordinating, whatever. And it's really good because I do get that level of insight, but at the same time, it's not like an above the line creative role. So it can kind of be like you're so close, but you're not so close. So in some ways, I kind of just prefer making coffees because it's like, it's that experience thing, you know, and you're getting stories, you're getting, stuff, and you can kind of just be freewheeling and be inspired that way. But I think my time in news was really interesting because it was like the skill set was great, like the work ethic was great, but it was like, all right, how do I apply this now to my filmmaking career?
Yeah. And was there a little sense of, if I stay on this pathway and become full-time or get embedded in this, this is all I'll do. This will be my career. I'll be a news guy.
A little bit. Yeah. I mean, there's guys that have been there 40 years, right? I'm like, well, there's potentially a really good career for me here if I want to keep going. I had, there was always that option. But yeah, for me, I think it was just like, the cut and dry politics of it as well. It's kind of like, it was interesting behind the scenes, but also it was like, as a filmmaker, you dream big, right? You want to have the biggest ambition possible. So I think any way you can do that, you've got to give that a go as much as possible. So yeah.
And you see people doing it as well.
100%.
Like, so I know it's doable.
It's 100% possible. And I think, having really good peers like yourself, for example, with my mates, I was like, well, yeah, I don't see like, why I can't do it. I think, and for me, I guess we'll get into this, but I think like getting to long form, and I'd love to hear your experience as well, but getting to long form for me, it's the inertia of like changing from like, oh, but no, I'm just a short filmmaker, or I'm just a web series guy, or whatever it might be, to like, no, you're a full-fledged, long form or whatever you want to do. So, I think a lot of it depends on yourself as a filmmaker as much as it depends on the people around you and the opportunities that you're given.
So at this time, you're making a lot of shorts, and the ones I see, I'm really like, you're jumping around genres. I can't nail down what a Seb Chan film is because I'm like, he's done a black and white documentary about homeless people. He's done a web series about a pub in Canberra, that's kind of like a rom-com.
Right.
You did like a sci-fi one probably not that recently now, but which was like almost like a female sex bot being, all these certain things. So I'm like, you're really out there trying different things.
Yeah.
And you're also applying for programs that are out there to support producers. So what was the one where you went to Bunya?
Yeah, sure. So that was the SBS Emerging Writers Incubator.
Yeah.
Which was such an incredible opportunity. I was in the first cohort of that, the first year they ever did. And
where was that, 2020?
I want to say 2021.
Yeah.
Because I started there in 2022. And essentially, that was a program for emerging writers. So Screen Canberra had basically one spot available, and you kind of apply through your own screen agency. So every screen agency had their own applicant essentially. And it just kind of, you needed certain credits. You needed to have like a web series and stuff, and the ambition to get involved in writing. And it was so amazing.
Writing samples as well. You had in part of that?
You needed writing samples and, long form writing samples.
And the idea was they were sending you basically to a production company to work for a year or
that's
something.
That's it, yeah. So it was like embed you in the production company to work with the producers, the writers, basically in development. So, I was doing a lot of note-taking, helping the development executive, doing additional writing, where I could. And just learning as much as I could about that whole development process, which is like no one really teaches you that at uni or school, right? So it's kind of like, how do you learn that? And to learn that from such an amazing company like Bunya, that was incredible. That was really very worthwhile time. And kind of, I stayed there longer than I needed to in a way. Like they had me on for an extra year. I worked on a bunch of their shows like Ladies in Black, The Office Australia. So they're really supportive in that way.
And you moved to Sydney for it? Yeah.
Moved to Sydney for it. Yeah. So up until then, I'd really just been Canberra based, right? And I'd been doing my best in Canberra. I'd won a few big awards or whatever, but for that one opportunity for me was really kind of opening me up to the wider industry and the wider world. And it's weird because I felt like, it was a big step, and like, wow, I've made it, right? Like I've made it into, an actual upper echelons of like company. The industry, right? But at the same time, it was still very much an entry level position in a way. It's like, which is fine, strip coverage, all that kind of stuff. I really, I got a lot from that, but it wasn't where I wanted to be, which is completely fine. But also in a way, it's like, wow, this is, I've worked so hard to get here, but this is just the entry level.
Yes, yeah.
Like I've still got to work so much harder to get to where I want to get to, right?
And you're working with the people that have the job you want, and you're in the same office as them, but maybe you're getting them coffee or taking their notes, and you're like, I want to be there.
Yeah.
I want an office on your floor.
Sit in that chair for a little bit, see how it feels.
Yeah. Read a few emails.
Exactly.
So you do that for basically 2 years at Bunya.
Yeah.
But you're now, it sounds like you're focusing more on writing now. You're in writers' rooms, or you're taking notes and that kind of thing, development. Are you actively being like, I'm trying to move away from producing short films and be more in the writing side of things?
In a way, yes. Like I think I'd never experienced writing for TV, so that was a really good introduction to that world. But I think in a way, like it's that saying of you can't take the dog out of the boy or whatever it is, right? Like, I mean, like I feel like once you've got a taste for producing, in a way, like especially if you're good at it, you're like, you have kind of a standard, right? Like your own standard. And unless people match your standard, it's like, well, why would I get you to produce when I can just I'll take care of it in a way. So in a lot of ways, I kind of had that energy or that thirst to kind of just make stuff still. Yeah. I think being a writer producer, it's very empowering because you're not just waiting for people to come and be like, yep, I love your story. Let's go make this.
You're self-generating.
Exactly. And I think the smartest, creatives, whatever they might be, actors, writers, producers, whatever, they kind of multifaceted in that way. They're like, well, I can take notes in a writer's room, or I can also go produce a short film. And I think you kind of have to sometimes if you have your goal, but how we get to that goal is everyone's different, right?
Do you feel like there's something in this industry where whatever your last gig was, that's what you are, or that's what you're seen as, and that taking a job like that feels entry level, even though you've actually got a degree, made a bunch of shorts, won awards and things. Is there a bit of like, you can tell that they're not looking at me like, we want him next year in our production team in a higher role. They're just like, oh, he's the guy that gets coffee and takes notes. Do you feel like it's hard to step up in those kind of hierarchies?
I think it's interesting. I mean, I think it depends on the individual as well, if I'm being completely honest. Like, I'm knowing people that, in my cohort as well, who have now got, option screenplays and stuff. And it's like, wow, how did you do that? Like, what was I doing wrong? And it wasn't necessarily, the other people or myself. It was just the kind of day-to-day, like, my focus, I guess. Like, I think at the time I was very much being like, wow, this is the first kind of full-time job I've had, with a production company. I just want to have a job. I just want to keep the job, right? Like, I'm happy to do whatever, right? And I think I kind of came out of that experience like, well, I've done that now. I know what that's like. Now if I'm ready to go again and I can like kind of have a bit more communication, maybe a bit more ambition, and kind of put forward what I want to do a little bit more, I think. Yeah. But like, I get it. It's a relationships thing. It's like, it's an experience thing. These things don't happen overnight. But I think getting in the room is like, the hardest part of it sometimes.
When you were working at Bunya, did it afford you the opportunity to keep working on your own stuff, or was it taking up all your time and energy that you're like, I'm going to be stuck here again and I don't have time to, make a short on the weekend if I'm doing long hours or whatever it might be?
A little bit of that, really. I mean, it's so intensive, especially like, it's such a small, it's an independent company. So you're kind of like, everyone's doing so much work themselves, right? Like everyone's just like punching above their weight in terms of the workload. So I think to support the people that I was working with, I was really, pedal to the metal. But I did manage to make a short somehow in my time there, which ended up doing really well. But
which one was that?
Tony's Dream. So Augusto Garcia. Yeah. So Augusto wrote and directed it. I produced it, and it's played at the Opera House and stuff. So yeah, it's on SBS OnDemand if anyone wants to watch it. But I think essentially, there's that balance really. Like it's kind of like any job. Like I think. Work-life balance, but also pros and cons, like, yes, you're getting invited to great events. You can say you work at Bunya, you do all these amazing things, you're working with cool actors or whatever it might be, cool industry execs, but it's also like, but what have you made lately? What have you done lately, right? Like, it's like, oh yeah, I did this cool thing like 5 years ago, right? Wow, that was 5 years ago. So I think it's like keeping hungry. You need to keep hungry, for sure. Yeah.
But if you're writing development docs and doing script coverage and sitting in writers' rooms all day, taking notes, it's hard to go home and then be like, now I got to work on my own script and try and get this going.
100%. And I think, I don't know. I think it's a drive that not everyone has. And like, sometimes I have it, sometimes I don't. It's, it's an energy thing. But I think if anything, I try and use the work from the day to be inspired. I'm like, well, this is good. This is great work, but like, imagine what you can do, or how would you do that differently? Or what story do you want to tell? Like, what story do you think needs to be told? And sometimes it's out of like, to be honest, frustration. It's like, well, like I could write that. Like I could, like, I just need to prove that I can do that. Right. So whether it's writing like a pilot or whatever. And the good thing about working in these companies is that they're very open to like having a read of your script or whatever. They're very receptive to like, they're supportive in that way. They're like, all right, well, we see where you want to go, like, but you've got to meet them halfway. You can't just expect to be like, yeah, you're sure running now. Like the guy called in sick, so you can do it. But yeah,
was it during your time at Bunya, or was it after, where you were in the writers' room for Croak, the film?
I believe that was before. That was like 2018.
Oh yeah.
So
was that something you applied for, like through one of these programs?
Yeah. That was probably one of my like first, initiatives. Like, wow, it sounds like I have done a lot, I guess. But that was like the first kind of initiative that I ever got in through Screenworks, which support regional filmmakers, and it was like a Screen Queensland based thing. And
Canberra counts as regional in some of these.
In the Screenworks, which is like, I'm like, all right, awesome, why not?
Yeah, absolutely.
So that was such a cool experience. They flew us up to Gladstone in Queensland, and we got to work with Natch Edgerton, the Van Buren Bros, and really like dissect the screenplay, the feature screenplay, and with a other bunch of emerging filmmakers, and kind of work out, all right, how do we get this thing made? Like what needs to happen to the story to make it viable, like a commercial and success, I suppose. And we got to like have meetings with the potential heads department. So that in a way was like a really good trial run, if you want to call it that, for like a writer's room situation. And spoiler alert for people that haven't been in writer's rooms, but you kind of obviously need to be a good writer, but you also really need to be good at like talking and communicating. So for me, that was like an eye-opening experience because I think I was a bit reserved. I was like, everyone's having such great ideas. I'll just let them say they're all the ideas. And, you know, I think every creative has a different way of working, but I think for a writer's room, you really need to put yourself forward. And I think from what I understand of the American rooms, they're very much like everyone's trying to chip in whenever they can. But I feel like Australian rooms are a bit more polite and people kind of ready to hear you out. But yeah, that whole thing was great. We I was working with Jungle and Midwinter Films, and yeah, some great producers again. Really got some good insight, and they gave me some great feedback on my own writing samples. Yeah, just one of those really special experiences where I got to connect with some really amazing people who are now doing great things as well.
Was that a short-term placement, like just a couple of weeks or something?
Yeah, a weekend, like a long weekend or something. Like I think it was a week all up. And yeah, the whole thing about it was just like essentially cane toads as a cane toad sci-fi. So part of it was like running around the parks catching cane toads.
They made you do that?
Yeah. Wow. As like to get to know, you know, the cane toads, right? Yeah.
You got to know what you're dealing with.
Of course. But up there, it's 100% okay to like kill them, right? Like it's people encourage the killing of cane toads.
Yeah.
So we were like the park rangers and stuff, and we were going around like with like little like bags and like, you know, clippers and stuff, trying to pick them up and put them in bags. And then we're like, what happens to the toads afterwards? And he's just like, oh, we just put them in the freezer. They go to sleep. It's fine. And then I think it was like Connor or Christian that was like, nah, just let them into the sewer again. Like, so I don't know if that's a crime or anything. Sorry for
releasing further invasive species.
Exactly.
Yeah, wow, that's crazy. I didn't know that. That's so funny.
It was cool. It wasn't just a room, you know. It was a immersive experience, and I think it's like, you know, a film shoot in a way. Like you get so close to the people, you get to know them, and anything that, you know, you're working so closely with these people, anything that isn't work is kind of really appreciated because it's like I said, it's a life experience, and you know, it informs the work as well. Before
we do this screenwriting stuff in the writer's room, let's go on an excursion and hunt cane toads just so we get a feel for what they're really like. That's amazing. So I think one of the things I really admired about you is how many of these programs that you have applied for, and you know, we could be like, oh man, Seb gets all of them, but you're like, he must be applying for probably 9 and then he gets 1, you know,
right?
Like, and I'm the same. Like you can go years where you're just trying to get into one of these programs, and then after those year or two, you go like, I got to make another short film because this is just killing me. But you did get into one recently for Screen New South Wales, right? That's the emerging producer placement.
Yes.
Tell me a little bit about that. I guess you haven't started it yet.
No. But essentially, so after Sydney, I kind of was like, I have a little place near Braidwood, so I've been living between there and Canberra. So I just wanted to get out of the city for a bit, have a bit of a tree change. I was working in different industries, hospitality and stuff. So,
and you were traveling as well.
I was traveling. Yeah, I had this whole like midlife crisis thing where I was like, I need to go to Morocco and find myself in the desert, and I found myself. So we good. He's doing well. But yeah, essentially, it kind of after the Bunya thing, I was like, okay, I've done a placement, and this has been a huge placement, very high profile placement, and I got a lot out of it. And I was like, with the education thing, I was like, all right, no more. I'm done. Done. But I guess kind of like the need for me, at least, being kind of working, you know, in hospo for a year or whatever, a year and a half, I was like, I felt like I needed another entry point in. I felt like I was a bit kind of like, do I need to make a short? What do I need to do? So for me, it was really an avenue to kind of challenge myself and take it to the next level. And what I'm really hoping to get out of this placement is some TV experience, because yes, I've worked in TV below the line, but I haven't worked in that very close to the producers in that sense. So
and this is a producer placement program, isn't it?
For sure. So I did kind of have to explain to them, you know, the panel, oh, so you did that writers thing and now you're a producer? Like, what's going on? You know, I'm like, no, I'm a slashy. I do everything.
Yeah.
But yeah, and it's, I mean, in a way, I've always been the producer, but it's just kind of like your focus at any one time, I think. So I definitely feel like if I have a pathway forward, it's through producing. Like, as much as I love the writing directing part, I feel like I am best placed as a producer, if I'm being completely honest.
And it wouldn't hurt that you just had Snatchers come out and that was a feature that you produced.
100%. Especially, you kind of go leverage your last opportunity in a way. Like, going back to like what are you last known for, Snatchers was a great opportunity for me to really flex my producing muscles, some great co-producers here. But it was really, looking at how like, all right, well, the writing directing isn't happening for me, but at least I've got the producing, right? And it was
people
kind of
actually call you up and say, hey, do you want to do this? Yeah.
100%. It was kind of the right place, right time moment in a way. But I'm so grateful to, Craig and Shelley for having me on. And I think that film it really speaks wonders to the local community. And grateful is the right word, really, because it's gone places and it's done amazing things for everyone. And it's fun.
So before you get into this producer placement program, you have had your midlife crisis, traveled the world. Yeah. I don't know if this is crazy, but I heard you were like chasing princesses around Morocco and stuff. Is there any truth to that?
It's all rumors, I swear. It's all rumored.
But then at some point you go, I assume before you got into this program, you were like, Snatchers is over.
Yeah.
I've now produced someone else's feature.
Yeah.
I want to make my own. And you must have, that decision must have happened where you're like, I'm doing it now, I'm ready.
In a way, Endling actually came before Snatchers. So I was working, I started writing Endling about 3 years ago. I had the idea probably way before then, but it's been a process of in and out of writing. And I kind of, I wanted to make something before I went to Sydney, actually, before I started the Bunya placement. I was like, almost the fear of like, oh, well, you're just going to be stuck in, doing development or whatever it is. So you've got to go in there with something and have something. So I was almost crazy enough to try and make something before my Bunya placement, but then thankfully in a way that didn't work out. And then I was like, all right, well, I'll do it next year or whatever, or after the placement. And then the placement ended. And then I was like, okay, cool. Well, I've heard of this other project happening, but if I can get my film going before then, great.
So it's been in the pipeline for a while, but it's been pushed back.
It has in a lot of ways. And I mean, there's a time when I had an animation company actually, and that unfortunately fell apart for a few reasons, but a great learning experience. And me and my business partner at the time, we actually thought about doing Endling as one of the on the slate, right?
Yeah, right.
Which didn't make a whole lot of sense because we're animation, we're kids animation. But essentially this project was going to happen a year ago. And then, various reasons that kind of didn't happen. And then I was like, okay, well, I'm ready for my midlife crisis now. Ready for my close-up in Morocco. And I think it was kind of a confluence of events. And looking back in hindsight, like everything worked out the way it kind of had to work out for the film to get made. But there were so many points in that journey where I was like, so close, right? Or I just needed one more thing.
You're about to pull the trigger.
Exactly, like a little bit of whatever it was, finance, actor, whatever it might have been. And I think for me as well, being so busy, it was just really having the time to do it.
Yeah.
For this, it's kind of like being an indie low budget feature is like you don't have that kind of level of support in terms of development or, pre-production finance or whatever, right? So you're kind of doing it on your weekends or in and around work or whenever you can do it, right? And like I was making milkshakes and like Cockington Green or whatever it was, and then like going home and like scheduling like the shoot or whatever. Yeah. So it was kind of like, it's kind of, you need that lead up. You need at least like minimum, 3 months, if not more, to get the thing off the ground, right? And if you don't have the space and time to do that, it's like, how do you...
Because I remember we did a table read for it, and that must have been end of 2024.
Yeah.
And at the end of the table read, you were like, I want to shoot this thing in 3 months. We were like, whoa, okay. You're like, I'm doing it next year. And then obviously now it's been a year and you've actually shot it. So you're in that position where you've just finished production like in the last few weeks.
Yeah.
And now you're about to start post and we can get into that. But I do want to hear about Endling. Like, let's get into the details. So this is your debut feature as a writer, director, and a producer. I'm guessing you were pulling it all together.
Yeah.
Just give us like the general log line, the tone, kind of what movies it would sit next to on a Netflix tile.
It's essentially about a half brother and half sister that have been living in a bunker for 13 years with their family, and their father passes away. before he dies, he's like, there's a village of survivors out there. When the time comes, I want you to go out there and find them. So they head out into the post-apocalyptic world full of zombies, away from the zombies into the bush where this supposed village is. And they get there and the brother tells her that I've been infected by the virus and we've got days essentially until I turn. So she's conflicted with, do I stay with him? Do I help him through his sickness, or do I go by myself and find the survivors? And he wants to go back to the bunker. So it's kind of like hope versus survival. You know, what survives when at the end of the world when nothing else matters, you know? And I would say, you know, my references have been Monsters, Garth Edwards, and the Australian film Cargo.
Yeah.
So kind of somewhere in there.
Yeah. So it's dramatic. It's kind of indie, a bit art housey, a bit genre.
Yeah, I'd say so. Yeah, I mean, we're calling it like a zombie thriller, but I think, as you would know, like the zombie genre is the audience, they're very diehard about the zombies, right? So I think it's probably more on the art house side of that genre. I mean, there's zombies there, but it's not like they don't have machine guns and they're not walking around. It's a very humanist story, actually. It's more about surviving not just the natural world, but surviving ourselves, you know, and whatever it might be, you know, whether it's loneliness or desperation. I think it's really at the heart of this story. It's a human story.
So very small cast, right? Just a couple of leads and then some small supporting roles, but most of it is with the brother and sister.
Yeah, that's it, yeah.
And then you've also written it around the locations that you knew. So it's like a Australian tourism ad, basically. Like you
in a
shot
way,
it in the Blue Mountains. Tell me a bit about the production, obviously shooting over an Australian summer out in the bush. How deep were you going? Tell me some of the kind of locations that you'd maybe seen on other shoots and you were like, I'm coming to this waterfall or, you know, this beautiful mountain.
Totally. Well, I mean, I wouldn't recommend it to anyone to begin with.
Flies and mosquitoes.
Yeah. I mean, maybe the snow is easier in hindsight, but I think, I mean, to be honest, like a lot of influences influenced me. I've been influenced. So there's a lot of amazing spots in the Blue Mountains where it's like, oh wow, like look at that, like really like amazing cascading waterfall or whatever it is. Like imagine that in a cinematic sense, in a story world, you know?
So you mean you literally were seeing influencers on Instagram that were like travel touristy people?
Totally.
And you're like, that's an amazing location.
Incredible. Yeah, I was letting them in a way doing my location scouting in a lot of ways. The only thing was logistically, like getting to those locations, I found very quickly that it was not always a very viable option.
Do you mean just in terms of it takes a long time to drive, or like there's not real roads, or they're up in the sticks?
Both. Yeah. One of the locations we never got to was the Lura Infinity Pool, right? Which looks incredible. It looks like you can't create that in a studio, but I was like, this has got to be in the film. But then when I realized it takes like half an hour to walk down there, carrying all the gear, being like the actors, like, all right, like prepare while we walk like half an hour in the hot weather and stuff.
Yeah.
It was just not very feasible. But there were a lot of locations that were still tricky to get to, but we made it work. So,
and the majority of the film is outdoors, right? Like you're not in sets and you're not in buildings.
Yeah. So it's very much in a way a road trip film, like two people walking through the bush to their destination. So yes, most of it is exterior. Yeah. And, you know, being a low budget indie, we did freak out a little bit about the weather. You know, we didn't have much rain cover days, and we did get rained out actually. There was, I think there was parts of the mountains that flooded when we were shooting there. So we lost about a day and a half.
Yeah.
In our schedule due to rain, where we're just like, it's pouring, like.
And is everyone staying at like an Airbnb or something together?
Yeah. Well, the crew are staying in an Airbnb. So we're all there. We're looking outside. It's pouring down, and we're just like,
we're not shooting tomorrow. Yeah. Or today.
Well, we kind of have that conversation with the heads of department, right? We have to like at least have a plan. So we walk around outside in our umbrellas a little bit. And meanwhile, the crew are like, what are they doing out there? Where are we going to like, and then we're like, no, we can't do today. So yeah, it was tough to lose a day and a half. And if I'm being honest, that was probably one of the low points in the filmmaking process.
We had the exact same thing on Me and My Mates as well. Yeah. You're like, all these exteriors, we got 100 zombies in makeup. Like, that's the thing. You can't just go, let's move it to tomorrow, because you're like, no, there's an effects company coming in, all the extras are booked, and we've got this location to do all their makeup and stuff.
Yeah.
And you just like, I guess we're putting up like a tent and trying to shoot little bits of it between the hard rain.
It kind of, that's what it almost came to. And in a way, it was kind of a rousing moment for everyone, for me at least, as you know, to say, all right, we've lost a day and a half. We don't have, we had rain cover. We had a few rain cover days at the end of the schedule, right, that we could use. But it came to the point where I had to say to everyone, whatever we don't get from now on is cut from the film. Like that's how that's how tight it got. Yeah. So to everyone's credit, they all stepped up. All the cast, all the crew, 100% on board. They were like, it's fine. We got this. We've got a plan. We know what we're doing. Fortunately, the weather held up a little bit more. But it was really like one of those moments where I was like shit, this could be it. The film could be a short film.
Yeah,
you know?
It's like a crumble. How many shoot days did you do total, and whereabouts was this in that schedule?
We did 15 days all up. So this was about
not in a row though, right? You had breaks.
We had weekends and stuff.
Yeah.
But this was probably about early on, like in the day 5 maybe,
So
day 6.
You've got a lot that. You're like, we don't have the story.
Exactly. Yeah. It was like, and for me, I was just like wearing so many hats, right? The writer, director, the producer.
Yeah.
You know, like I'm talking to the money people and stuff. It's like, God, like if we don't get this, like, what are we going to do, right?
Yeah.
Like, how are we going to make this story work? And we're already kind of like cutting parts of the scenes and trying to streamline everything. And that evening, after the massive day of rain in the cave, like our whole set got flooded basically. So like we couldn't even shoot that the next day, right? So I was just like, I was exhausted. I just went to bed at like 8 p.m. I was just like, I'm just going to wake up and like deal with it tomorrow.
I have this feeling every time I'm on a production, and I think I said it at the last one and people didn't respond the way I wanted them to, which is to be like, that's a good point. But it's like, at any point, it would be easier for all of us to just go home.
Yep.
And that was meant to be like a rousing speech where I'm like, we're here and we're doing it.
Yeah.
But the easiest thing is for me to say, don't come in tomorrow. Let's just go home.
Yeah.
And no one cares. It's my, the film never gets done and whatever.
Yeah.
Especially on a short film that's like 2-day shoot or whatever.
Totally.
But you're like, that going over that hump is the accomplishment of making a film.
100%.
And that's why anyone who's made one knows that struggle.
Yep.
And the people who see it, they don't understand like the actual logistics of trying to make something like this and get all these people together and pull it off in a certain time schedule. Yeah. But anyone who's made one has like a lot of respect for anyone else who's making them. Yeah.
Totally. Yeah. And I think it is one of those things like being in that moment, like you don't know what it's like until you're there. And again, to just cap that story off. Yeah. I went to bed heaps early. Like we had scheduling and stuff to do the next day. And I was like, I just kind of like, I'd lost my emotional ability essentially. Yeah. So, I'd found out later that the whole heads of department got together and they just made a plan. And they're like, all right, what are we going to do for the next day? How are we going to tackle this problem?
Yeah.
And it was a really humbling moment, actually, in a way. It was kind of like, I realized I didn't have to hold it all on my shoulders. Like I had amazing people around me. Like that inspired me to then, inspire them again to be like, all right, we've got this. So we somehow got everything we needed in the can for our principal photography. So
yeah. And are you planning on going back and doing an extra day here or there? I guess it's hard if you're going to travel.
Totally. Yeah. I mean, we do have a few already, some scheduled pickup days for just things we didn't have time to do. But essentially, yeah, we've got most of it. And it's interesting, like, I mean, you have to remind me what Mates was in terms of schedule, but like 15 days to shoot a feature, it's like you don't have a lot of wiggle room.
No.
And because
21.
There you go.
But no overtime.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Okay. So I think, as a writer or as a director, you're kind of making decisions on the fly in terms of like what you need to get to make the story make sense, right?
Yeah. And there's parts you won't know until you get the edit together.
Totally. Right.
And so I would say if you can, get a rough cut together and then you'll see a few holes that you're like, I can fill that with a shot of two people over a sunset that we can do in an hour and just get a few bits of dialogue that'll piece this together.
100%.
Like after me and my mates, we did 21 days, maybe 2 or 3 months later, we did a pickup day, a single day. So we're like, we can get the crew together, we can get some zombie makeup and stuff. And we had a whole new scene that introduced characters with stunts and action and things. And then we also had little interstitial, like we shot a new intro to the film that was like the opening credits, and we couldn't even get the actor back, so I just played him and we shot from behind. And we cut it in with some stuff we had of him on this mower. Cool. And just little things where you're like, I need a shot of this door being opened, or I need an establishing shot. We went and shot some establishing night stuff with some time lapse and things like that. And like, that'll hold there. It's like, amazing. And you won't know until you've got your rough cut.
Right.
So I would not, you might already be locked in, but I would definitely say like try and get the rough cut before you do the pickups. Although you might know, regardless of the rough cut, I know I need these things to pick up anyway. So.
For sure. No, I agree as well. I think like there's so much, and you know, we've just started the first assembly, so we've got a hell of a long way to go in terms of post-production. But I think that's a necessity, especially in this kind of scale of filmmaking, is like, we have missed things. I know we've missed things. So it's kind of like, how do we go back and get what we need? And whether sometimes it's just connecting shots or whatever it might be, like a sunrise, like you said, or whatever it might be. So there's still a bit more of that kind of shooting to happen. But like essentially I'm kind of ready to lock in for post.
How many features had you written before this one?
Yeah, like 3, I think. So, and the thing what I love about Endling is that I kind of designed it in a way to be a very achievable film.
You wrote to locations.
Exactly, right.
And that's your production value as well, is just like scenic 100%. Stuff. Yeah.
So it's like 2 people in the bush, daytime. It's like the cheapest type of film you can make, right?
Yeah.
But then somewhere along that journey, I was like, bush, but what about Blue Mountains bush? Like the most scenic kind of bush you can get.
Yeah.
And then the ambition drove like the requirements of the shoot. So it wasn't just bush, which I could have shot like at the back of my house. It was like, like you said, adds to production quality, but the ambition scale of it really, rose dramatically.
Did you do a lot of location recce stuff with at least your DP or production designer?
Totally, yeah. So, I mean, myself before, like even when I was writing, I was going out there, I was looking at locations. I was like, all right, how do I incorporate this? How do I, I was looking at things very early on in terms of logistics. Like, how do we get a camera down here? Where do we put the actors for makeup? That kind of thing. I think it was kind of a necessity. But again, like the reality of the shoot was that, I didn't have development money. I didn't have pre-production money. So I was going off on my own accord when I had a weekend to the Blue Mountains or whatever it might have been. So there was only so much of that. And in a way, I'm sure my co-producer would agree that it was very, we could have done with a lot more pre-production time, a lot more location recce's. I'm sure the DOP would have loved that as well. But it was kind of, in a way, like we were running out of track, essentially. We've only got so much time. Let's just stuff in some more recce's or whatever we can. And yeah.
And if you don't have golf buggies and vans full of stuff, if you're like 30 minutes walk down some track, you can't be like, we're doing crane shots today. Like you can only get what you can physically carry over there.
Oh, 100%. And I think credit to the crew for really chipping in. Like we had a lot of gear actually, like even for the minimalist shoot that we were trying to do, we had a lot of gear to carry around to different locations. And everyone chipped in carrying stuff, art, sound, continuity. It wasn't their department, but they were the mentality of the shoot was we're all in this together. We need to get in there. We need to get out before darkfall. Let's just everyone chip in, I was carrying I was a gaffer. And I'm going to credit myself as a gaffer. So thank you, Matt, if you're watching.
That's amazing. I'm thinking of just how difficult that would be in terms of the lighting guys that would have a magliner trolley with everything. And it's you can't roll that down a dirt track,
No way, for sure.
Minutes down into a Blue Mountains. Now, was Seb the actor ever going to show up in this, or has that dream gone?
There were some opportunities, some dead corpses and stuff, and I was considering it. I joked to a friend that I'm playing all the roles, I'm playing the lead role and stuff. And I think they believed me up until very recently when they saw the cast announced. But, I think the actor is long dead and buried.
Yeah.
I've only just revived the writer Seb for the rap party, but
Did you think about being one of the zombies? Because I thought about doing that, and then you're just on the day, I can't sit around for an hour and a half of makeup.
Oh, yeah.
And then it would be fun to be directing and looking so stupid. Yeah. And then, but you're it's not going to work.
For sure. I mean, one of my idols is Peter Jackson, right?
Yes.
And he's got those iconic, cameo moments. I was should I start that now? So I can be hey, if I ever get to meet him, Peter, I also do cameos. But initially we had extras that were going to do the extra roles. And then it got to the point where we couldn't even use the extras. We were like, all right, makeup, like hair, whatever, you're going to be the extra now. Like just do the makeup yourself. So no, there was maybe the next film, like if there is another film, I can be, write myself in there somehow, would be great. But
Sweet. So Endling, was it self-funded? Did you have some financiers with you? Tell me how you put it together.
Yeah, well, it was private finance. I put a chunk of my own money in, but essentially like some close contacts, some angel investors as well, some friends, some family kicked in. It was kind of a hodgepodge of stuff. Yeah, it's actually a hard thing to do. You think it's an easy ask. It's not always an easy ask. And I think that is the difficult part of producing in a way. Like it's probably the most difficult part is like going out there and convincing people to spend their money on your project or another person's project or whatever it might be, and say like there may or may not be a return on investment in this. And not having a distributor or whatever it might be, the chances of that, diminish. But I think, the people that, I kind of, been building this plan for a long time. So, laying out the vision, I think is the most important part of that, and saying, if we can get, some good heads of department, some good actors, put all the money on screen as much as possible, then we have something that there's a chance at least.
Yeah. And you were never trying to get Screen Arts funding?
Well, I mean,
Screen Australia.
And not to say that we might not either. I think, there's a long way to go still in terms of like posts and marketing and stuff. But for me, this project was really just about, I'd had enough of waiting in a way, I'd had enough of so many applications or whatever it might be. And someone else giving you the permission to be like, yeah, go make the thing, like the writer in me was like, all right, cool. I'll just chip away at my work and, maybe one day. But the producer in me was like, no, this is going to be made this year, depending on wherever the script's at essentially. And, obviously like it's been pushed back a few times, but I think, if like I said, a confluence of events, and it in a lot of ways it's luck that it kind of happened when it did happen. And, any longer the finance might have fallen out or whatever it might have been. So I think you've got to take your chances when you can with these things. Yeah.
That's the ambition required to make a project like this is I can't just sit around and wait for someone else to give me the money and then do it. You just have to jump in.
Yeah, 100%. And like, I think it's about the people that you get involved as well. So shout out to my co-producers, Von Pattiag from In Between Pictures and Wayne Calamari from Big Button Films. Having that kind of support, like people that not just believe in you, but kind of understand what you're trying to do. Because a low budget indie, it's not for everyone. It's actually so much work that you're not getting kind of compensated for in a way, like especially on the producing level, like the number of hours or the amount of effort that you put into it, it's not, you're never going to see that back in any kind of financial form. Sense. So you're not just doing it for that, you're doing it for the love of the project or the love of the creative, the love of the story. And this is so much a passion project, like I think, when I look at, the cast and crew, they went above and beyond. And I think a big part of that was there were so many heads of department that were doing their first feature as well, which really kind of set it apart from other projects that I'd worked on, because it was like, obviously everyone's getting something out of it in terms of a credit or whatever, but it's also, we have the same journey. Like just because I'm writing, directing doesn't make my journey necessarily different in that way. Like we're having a crack essentially. And I think what we've got for the schedule we had, the budget we had, I think it's incredible. And I can't wait to share it with everyone. It's going to be so, exciting.
So you talked a bit about the rain. How was the sun? Because there were some hot days this summer.
Yeah, it was ridiculous. I think definitely towards the end of the schedule, there were some really hot days, but it's weird. Like Blue Mountains, it's kind of like a different climate in a lot of ways. Okay. Like it's like misty, it's cloudy, it's cool. It's kind of like in a vortex in a way of like the weather around it changes, but it's like the Bermuda Triangle of Katoomba, right? Like it's just like that's where all the UFOs hang out and like the Yowies or whatever. But yeah, I think
no one was getting sunstroke or just.
Well, actually, yes, one of the crew.
Oh, no.
Yeah, unfortunately. So she's fine, thankfully. But there was some tough conditions, and again, like asking people to kind of march up and down trails into the middle of nowhere. There were snakes. There was there was bees. There was all types of risks. So very grateful, but I think the locations speak for themselves, and I don't know if you had a larger budget, if you would have necessarily achieved these locations in a way, because
it just gives you more time and days, maybe.
Totally,
But it's not going to look that much different.
For sure. So I think what sets us apart from a lot of other indies being made at the moment is that, the beauty of the natural landscape, some of these crazy locations that we're going to, are so hard to access, is that if you did have like a full crew of like 40 people, it increased the budget by so much that it'd not be worth it in a way.
Yeah.
So in a way, the buy-in from everyone would be like, all right, I see what you're trying to do here. Let's just get on and do it. I think that's a real, take my hat off to everyone for buying into that.
So I think if you've done the production part, you've now accomplished, I would say, the full climb of the mountain. You've hit the summit and now you're starting to go down. There's still a lot of work to go down. Yep. Do you still have money left over? What's your post-production looking like? What's your plan for it?
Well, I mean, it's a great question. I guess if any investors are listening, we're happy to EP credits. I've got EP credits available.
Like, are you editing it yourself or are you working with an editor?
Well, my co-producer, Wayne, he is actually an editor as well by trade. So he's going to...
and he was on set.
He was on,
so he knows
for a lot of it.
The story in
totally.
and out.
So he's going to spearhead post-production, and he's a really good editor himself. But essentially, we're talking to Blue Mountains creatives, Canberra creatives. A part of it is, the financing model as well. It's like, if we are applying for state funding, like obviously, how do we include local creatives into that? But it is a very much, we're just filling it out and we're just going to see what we can do.
So you'll put together a rough cut and then maybe look at trying to get some post money for like coloring or sound or something.
I think so. Yeah, I think so. I mean, there's we did go over a little bit in the shoot, and that was due to the weather, the day and a half falling out and whatnot, and I think just the ambition that we hadn't encountered for some of the locations and stuff. So unfortunately, we did eat into a little bit of our post budget. So we do have to address that going forward. I think my strategy is to, like you said, get a rough cut together, and then I can take it to market, and be like, all right, we know whether it's Can, MIF, whatever I say, this is kind of what we want to do. Do you want to jump on? And, where do we go from there? How do
try
we
and get a distribution partner or another production company to help finish it?
Yeah, why not? Why not? And I think it's a risky approach, obviously. Like, I think the indie world is full of risk, but it's kind of like the same mentality we had going into it. It's like, let's just make the thing and we'll work the rest out later.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of what we're hoping for that approach to work out.
So you don't have a hard plan of like, we're going to finish by June 30th and then I'm going to apply to Sundance. I'm gonna, like, you're just like, I want to try, let's just see what we have and take it slow. And there are benefits to that because it means you can go back to work and start getting more money that then can be used back into it.
For sure.
And not having the deadlines of like, we need to meet this festival deadline.
For sure. Yeah.
And if you don't have big expectations of a production company that's like, hey, we've got a slate, we've got release dates and stuff.
Yeah. Where was that film you made like 10 years ago? YouTube? Cool. Yeah.
You can take your time a little bit, which is a benefit.
A little bit, I think. I mean, we do have a plan, obviously. Like, we do have a schedule. So, like I said, deadlines are very important to me. But essentially, I kind of already had secured some like the placement with the emerging producer placement and a few other things before the shoot had begun. So I kind of knew going into it, like, all right, even if for whatever reason the post budget is consumed in the shoot, like, at least I can claw some of that back in my day job going forward.
And do you have to go to Sydney for that again?
Yeah, I'm currently Sydney based. So
okay, wow.
Yeah, it's, getting used to that lifestyle again. And
you haven't started the placement though yet?
No, not the placement, but I'm working on another show as a script coordinator at the moment. Okay, cool. So yeah, again, interesting, but it's kind of like the balance of like, I've got a day job now in a way. So Endling is kind of taking a back seat. Yeah. So it's kind of like, in a way.
But you've left it with the editor, right? So you
exactly.
Just like send me some cuts and
I'm ready to see it when it's finished.
Yeah. I'll just watch it at home like I would watch any movie.
Exactly. Yeah, I'll see it on Netflix soon. Yeah, no worries. But yeah, post-production for me, I think it's a learning experience as well. I'm very much a hands-on kind of go out there and do it producer. So for me to be like, all right, well, we need a bigger, larger overacting plan, I think that's going to be good for me to learn in a lot of ways.
Well, I think there's been a lot of lessons learned in this pod for anyone who's thinking of making their own films. Right towards location. You can self-fund and make something for 15 days. I think that's what Bunny was as well.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Great.
so that's, and I think Snatchers and me and my mates were 21-ish days.
Yep.
So around that, if you can get 3 or 4 weeks, if you can get a few people that are like-minded, that are like, especially the ones that are young and hungry and are willing to go above and beyond to join your crew and try something, and then having the ambition, constantly working, constantly applying for things as well. It's you actually can't just sit around and wait for someone to call you. Like it's just not how it works. You've got to be putting yourself out there, and in the times where you're not being successful in applications, you've got to just be making your own stuff.
I think so. Yeah. And like collaboration is key, right? Like I think even as a writer director, you can't, like I was relying on my crew and like you can't do everything. And there is so much to a film that you're like, you want to be across everything, but you're just not going to be. Like whether it's costume or cinematography, you've got to, I think you've got to be open to collaborating at the highest levels, right? And that will get your film a long way.
At this age and with your experience, did you feel like you knew what you were doing out there, or was there still that sense of like, oh my God, I can't believe this is happening, even though I worked so hard to make this happen?
I mean, yeah, in a sense, it is a dream come true, like having a feature credit as a writer-director, but it's like, holy shit, it's scary. It's like, it was terrifying. Like, and I think going back to the good people around me, like I could, I had that confidence to be like, well, at least I've got these people to help me. But yeah, I think wearing so many hats as well, kind of being the lead producer with the money stuff as well, there was a lot of stress and there was a lot to hold in your mind at any one time. So at the same time, I was like, enjoy it for what it is, because this might actually never happen again. Like who knows, like what's going to happen? Like who knows what you're going to do? But yeah, I think for me, it was like, you're out in the mountains, you're doing crazy stuff with great people. Like, just enjoy the process. As tough as it is, as sleep deprived as you are, dehydrated, sunstroke, whatever it is, you're never going to be here again, potentially. At least not for this project.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Do you have any advice for the Seb 12 years ago that was in uni and was like, I want to make a film one day? What are just some quick pointers you could tell them of things you've learned over the years that would maybe save them some heartache?
First of all, drop out of uni straight away. No, I think, I mean, obviously, collaboration, like I just mentioned. I think make as much as you can, as soon as you can. Like I want to say make mistakes, but have lessons, like learn new things, try new things. For me, it was just making so many short films where I got to the point where I was like I've learnt everything I can about that type of short film. Like, how can I challenge myself? And I don't have to show anyone any of those short films if I don't want to, right? Like, it was really just kind of trying new things. So make as much as you can, make as many mistakes as you can. And for Seb, I guess, 12 years ago, I would say, like, back yourself, I think, as well. Like, if you have a passion and you have talent, I think you've got to grow that as much as possible and sustain that. And I know it's so difficult out there. Like, it's to get any kind of creative project up is mind-blowing. But I think whatever it is, whether it's applying for initiatives, using deadlines, whatever it might be to get you like a little bit closer to where you want to get to, I think you've just got to like find a way to do that, because that eventually, like, looking back, will sustain you in terms of like, oh, well, I got into this one, I didn't get into those 10 or whatever, but that got me this little bit closer to where I want to get to.
Yeah.
So I would say don't give up on that aspect of it. I know it's like exhausting, but that part of it is like, small steps in a way.
Seb Chan, it's been amazing. Where can people find you, or maybe follow Endling? Where should we send people?
So I'm on Instagram as Seb the Filmmaker. That's seb.the.filmmaker. And Bunya Pictures is my company, which is on Facebook. I'm between Canberra, Braidwood, Sydney, East Coast of Australia.
Yeah. Amazing.
So, thank you so much for having me.